Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube channel, where I'm breaking down all of the games of NFL's Wild Card Weekend right here on my YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe to my page to get all of my videos delivered directly to your inbox. In what I think is the marquee matchup of NFL's Wild Card Weekend, the Seattle Seahawks will travel across the country to Landover, Maryland, to take on the Washington Redskins. Seattle comes in with a record of 11-5. Washington with a record of 10-6. This will be the battle of the two phenom rookie quarterbacks, Russell Wilson of the Seahawks, RG3, Robert Griffin III of the Redskins. Both teams feature very potent rushing attacks and very potent rushing defenses. So I think that's interesting, an interesting situation about this game as well, along with obviously the storyline of the two rookie quarterbacks. Seattle comes in red hot. Winners of 7 of 8 games. They beat the Rams last week at home to solidify that 11-5 record. Didn't get up to win the NFC West crown because the 49ers took care of business. But the Seahawks, again, winners of 7 and 8 games, have played better on the road here the second half of the season, which I think is important because I think that was the one question that everyone had about them coming into this season and as the season progressed was their ability to come up big on the road. I think they've answered those questions. Okay, you get Browner and Sherman will both play. Obviously, Browner served his suspension for PEDs. Sherman won his appeal against the NFL, so both those cornerbacks will play, which again I think is a big deal because I think that's the strength of their defense is their secondary. When you take those two corners, Chancellor and Thomas as the safeties, and their defense as a whole is probably the most underrated defense in the league. They're good against the pass. They're also good against the run. Russell Wilson has gotten increasingly better as the season has gone on. Marshawn Lynch has been consistent for them as a running back all season. Had it not been for Adrian Peterson's great performance this year, had it not been for Alfred Morris running for 200 yards last week, I think Marshawn Lynch would be a guy you'd hear very prominently as being one of, if not having the best season of any running back in the NFL this year. But obviously when you have a guy like Peterson rush for over 2,000 yards, all the talk's going to be about him, which I totally get. But Lynch has had, one notch below Peterson, has had a very good season and has really been has been the workhorse for this team as they tried to get Russell Wilson sort of up to speed to make this playoff run, which has happened. Lynch carried a lot of the burden early on in the offense, and I think you'll see that this week as well. I think this game will come down to which rushing offense can establish itself against the other team's stout rushing defense. I think that's going to be a huge factor. Alfred Morris obviously coming off of a huge game versus the Cowboys, but I look at this Seattle defense as being markedly better than that Dallas one. As far as Washington goes, obviously Washington has won 7 games in a row, so you're getting the two hottest teams in football here, which is why I said before I think this is the marquee matchup of Wild Card Weekend. You saw it yesterday with Robert Griffin III against the Cowboys. He's still effective. He can still run when he needs to, but I don't think the rest of this season we're going to get the vintage dual threat RG3. And I think when the Seahawks really dissect this tape that the Redskins have put out the last 2 weeks, I think they're really going to see that in these option plays and on these read option plays that RG3 probably isn't as much of a threat as he was early in the season. Is RG3 still an exceptional, capable quarterback? Yes. But he's just not as dynamic as I think he was earlier in the season, which is why I think more pressure is going to be put on Alfred Morris in the running game. And that running game answered the bell last night. A virtuoso performance by Alfred Morris last week. Another rookie, by the way, a 6th-round pick. That was, again, a great pick by Allen and Shanahan. He's paid huge dividends for them this year, been a huge difference maker. And, how does he come out and establish himself? Which one of the rookie quarterbacks avoids the big mistake? Neither one of these guys has been prone to making the big mistake all season. A lot of times these playoff games come down to that. I do like Seattle's ability better to put pressure on RG3 in the passing game. I like Seattle's defense as a whole. I like Seattle's team as a whole. The one question I had about them was their ability to play on the road. But after how they played in Chicago and how when they went on the road up to Toronto to play Buffalo, those two games, and the Chicago game is where I started to think a little bit differently about this Seahawks team. They'll be at full strength defensively with Browner back in the lineup. The Seahawks right now are 2.5-point favorites on the road in Washington, which is where I think it should be. I think Seattle's been a little bit of a better team this season, but not underscoring what Washington has done. I mean, whether it's Alfred Morris, RG3, the defense coming up big when they need to in spots. They've just been, and look, the game plans Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan have put together this year. I think it's been a very good season in Washington, but I look for that season to come to an end this week. I like the Seahawks going to Washington minus the 2.5, a road favorite in the playoffs. I like Seattle minus 2.5 to go into Washington and beat the Redskins. I don't know if this is going to be a popular pick as this week unfolds, but I just really like what Seattle's doing on both sides of the ball. And again, I look at that Seattle defense as being markedly better than the Cowboys, and I look for that to be the big difference in the game. And I look for Marshawn Lynch to be able to do enough against the Redskins defense to put Russell Wilson in more favorable down and distances. And I think this is the week where we see that RG3 injury or him not being at full strength really be a factor, because this is the first really good defense they're going to play since he's banged up. So Seahawks minus 2.5 against the Redskins to close out Wild Card Weekend here. So be sure to check out my other previews, subscribe to my page here on YouTube, and as always, you can catch me on Twitter at SNewsAnalysis. Thanks, guys.